I call tonight's city council regular council meeting to order. Please stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would entertain motion to approve tonight's agenda as printed.
Madam Mayor, of course, this is the addition of sent out this afternoon.
Yes, so I did Louise and I were in contact about adding my mayoral appointments. That was added this afternoon. Should be quick discussion though.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the agenda as posted with the most recent publication.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Allen, seconded by Council President Hansen to approve the agenda with the update this afternoon. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Consent agenda.
Madam Mayor, I vote to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Good job. It's been moved by Council President Hansen and seconded by Councilmember Moon to no, I can't talk. To approve the consent agenda. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Dan, yeah. Okay, we had nobody on public comment, so just want to make a quick comment. If this is the time for the general public to make any comments, we just ask that you not come up to the podium outside of public comment. So if you didn't sign up but need to talk, now is your time. Okay, we're going to move on to unfinished business. Okay, first thing up, ordinance number 3184 relating to sewer water user charge system and actual user rate structure.
Madam Mayor and council members, of course, we've been talking about this for about the last 3 or 4 meetings. It's just the way I like to do things like this, so everybody hear about it in the public and everything else. We're talking about 20% rate increase. This may not be enough. We have to look again next year. You know, it's more than likely the way the project for the sewer lagoon is going, that we won't have to make any, the city will not have to make any payments on the money that's being borrowed, probably till at least 28, perhaps even 29. So this gives you a chance to start ramping up into it rather than just wait and have to do one big chunk at one time. You know, last year you raised some, but again this year, then more than likely than ever in this role next year we'll have to look probably raise it again. We could do it to City Hazen a few years ago, it just did it all at once, which it has, I mean, they all have to go up. And the amount we're raising to meet the goal is down the road, to service that $10 million loan, $8 to $10 million loan. It's gonna cost the city $500,000 a year, that's 40,000, that's $40,000 a month, give or take. Divided by 1,100 customers, it's $35. I mean, ironic, city to the south of here, has kind of the same similar numbers. A larger city that I used to work with had the same per capita. I mean, they spent 110 million, but they also had 10,000 meters, and they have to pay $5 billion a year, and it breaks down to about $35 a cut. I mean, it's just amazing. So that's where it is. So I think this is well thought about, and like I said, we applaud the council. We're having a great discussion for this, that we, took through the whole process.
Madam Mayor, I would concur with what Mr. Dingle was talking about. We've talked about this issue several different times, and we do have to meet the standards as set forth by the state legislature. So I move to adopt the ordinance number 3184 relating to sewer user charge system and actual user rate structures.
I second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Moon, seconded by Councilmember Bishop to adopt ordinance number 3184 relating to sewer user charge system and actual user rate structure. Any discussion? Okay, I got one email from a citizen that said they are in favor of doing whatever is necessary to maintain sewer services, including raising taxes. And shared this quote with me to remind people that taxes are the price we pay for a civilized society. That's from 1904. Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr. said that. So
Interesting,
anyway,
okay.
I was just
Just for public, what do most people have meter size wise now?
Small, the average, yeah, I think in one of my earlier packets, I listed how many at different sizes.
You've got them here, but I just didn't know like what
Yeah.
the average house typically has.
Most of it's the smallest.
Okay, just so
That's
that
the
you're kind
highest
of
percent.
aware what their rates are
Their
gonna
base
increase
rate.
to.
In
Yeah.
one of my early packets of the discussion, I had the number per section. I didn't bring that tonight.
That's fine.
I would say, of all the meters, 80 to 85% are in that bottom range.
Okay, so you're talking probably $21 to $22 increase, right?
I
On
think
the
less than that.
Minimum monthly charge. Well, it's
Well,
32.
and plus usage, plus the usage. I thought I missed it one meeting, I thought it was $10, I said, right? I did it one meeting, it was part of the discussion at one meeting. That's, Bernard asked me, and I think it was about 10, 12 bucks.
Oh, never mind, sorry, that was reading wrong.
Okay,
Yeah, we're good.
okay,
okay. Any other discussion? Right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Okay, next is the agreement between the city of Ellsworth and Ellsworth District Number 1 and Fire District Number 2.
Madam Mayor and council members, at the February 23rd meeting, I brought to attention the contracts of the fire districts. As mentioned then, as in my letter here, the agreements with the fire district one is basically Ellsworth Township. And then fire district 2 is 5 other townships, okay? And they're listed somewhere. Yeah, Garfield, Sherman, Black Wolf, Ash Creek, and Lincoln in District 2. In 1986, the city entered an agreement with both fire districts to provide fire service out there. And if you go back to those agreements, which I've included in the packet, they sold the city of Gator City some equipment. There was some trade of equipment back there, and that was all taken care of. And of course, as I mentioned back in February, the contract has their 1-year contracts with automatic renewals, unless somebody gives a 90-day notice, which the sad part about it, nobody did. So right now, the city received, well, in 1986, the city received $10,000 from Fire District 1 and 2,500 from each township. I believe there's 4 townships at that time, now there's 5. So we received the same amount of dollars in 87 as they do today. So it's a 40th year of contract and it's never been adjusted. I met with probably about 10 to 15 people from the townships a couple weeks ago. And for the most part, I think they understood the cost of going up. I probably got asked more than a few times, why didn't the city bring this up 20 years ago? And of course, my answer is, I don't know. You know, and I looked at it because our cost today, and I put in the packet here, I have some budget things I gave them that night and everything else, everything I gave them that night in the packet. And basically, I commented that, you know, the cost of operating department are about $180,000 a year, give or take. Well, with 22.5, I think 165 was like used for last year. Take off the 22.5 we get for the townships. That's 140,000 left for the city to pay. And if you do it on, and our valuation of the city is $20 million, give or take right now. And so the taxpayers of the city are paying 7 mils of taxes for fire service, whereas the township people are paying basically 1 mil or maybe a hair less than 1 mil, depends on which township you're in. In the packet also, I put the taxation for all the fire districts in the county. There's one fire district that's 7 mils, and I don't know much about it. It's the one way the township in that part of the county. They're actually served out of Mercer County. And it's about a 7 mils. There's a 5 mil up in there. I've been told that one of the townships, plus the city of Wilson, $4,800, and I did not double check that. So that was over one of the township that a neighboring township paid $4,800 a year. They're paying $2,500. I think they all got it. One of the people asked me that last night says, what percent do you think the township should pay versus the city? And I sat there while I thought, and I says, probably 60-40, 6% to the city, 40% to the county. And also the packet, in your packet tonight, I gave them as well, is all the fire runs for the last 12 months. And, you know, I understand that a couple of townships, 2 townships that I call the interstate townships, have probably more faults than anybody. Accidents because of the interstate. They asked, could we build the townships? Well, or could we build insurance companies? And I've checked around, I don't know anyone's doing it. Our contract right now says that we cannot build anybody else. We are not able to. Are they able to build? I don't know, you know. Should that share, because every township should be paid by other people in the county? I said, that'd be something you need to go to county commission with, because that's, you know, don't handle this. I get all the concerns. So somebody said 64. So I went back and looked at the Minos channels, and I looked at 1987, 1988, and my 60-40 was pretty darn close. So back in 1987, 60% was city, you know, 40% was county, or was townships. Well, it has now moved from that to 22 and 140, so 7 times more, you know. That's what it's moved to. So how do you correct it? And I think there's different ways, and they all says, bring back a proposal. Well, I sat around and did a lot of thinking how you're gonna do this. To get it to where to 60-40%. If you did a 25% rate increase a year, you'd have to do it for about 6 years. To bring it equal. You knock it down to 20 and lose about 8 or 9 years. And again, I'm not putting any inflation factor in there, so that maybe it'll be a little more. That's just, those rough numbers are there. You know, the bottom line is, its costs are what the costs are. I can argue, and we've been through but one budget, and we'll talk more at the Kevin Short about the next year's budget, is that we probably don't budget enough money for the fire department. We are lax on getting equipment replaced. And nobody argued that. I mean, that was not the argument per se. I mean, they all understood it, of course, like anybody else. And one of my sayings always used is the fairest tax is the one you pay and that I don't pay. And they're fine with it. I mean, they have no problems, except they also understand the cost. And one person, a board member from one of the townships, he actually owns property in this township, I think lives a little further west, made the comment that, hey, you know, we understand the costs are going up, and we need to step up the plate. Where do we step up? I don't know. Because they're gonna have budget concerns too. They're gonna have to go to their taxpayers and raise taxes. And to do it, any kind of increase like that, they're all gonna probably have to do an R&R hearing. Revenue neutral rate here. They're all gonna have to. I mean, I get that. I don't know how else to solve the problem. Or you continue to go into the future and create more of a gap as costs go up and put the burden only on city taxpayers. And that's the real trick question right there. The 64, like I said, when I went back and looked at what it was, and even my letter in February says the agreement in 1987 it was a wonderful agreement. I mean, it was. I mean, I think the fairness between townships and the city, you know, was where it needed to be. And I don't think anybody argues that. It's just that as inflation went up and everything else and other costs go up, it didn't stay with that. You know, and then also in this agreement, if you do something, then put an escalator every year, maybe using CPI or some other kind of factor in there. So you don't have to, so another commission that is a problem in another 40 years, or council has. Cost of cost. I mean, you know, I've been in the city business for 37 years now, and I never thought I'd be spending the kind of money on some of the stuff that we did at 37 years ago. It wasn't much. But I also bought a brand new pickup 49 years ago for $6,000. It was pretty hot. I paid a whole lot for it, more than for my last one. That's what life is. So it's how do we get there? They asked me to bring back some numbers to them, which I thought I said I'd bring report here on the 11th, and then I will 7 to meeting with the townships again. But basically, what are your thoughts?
So, Mr. Ginkle, am I to understand that you're also going to come up with a proposal on what you believe the city should do to rectify this situation that's been going on for 40 years?
Well, should be is we do it all at once. That's not doable. I mean, that's done. I mean, you know. We are somewhat at fault, we, city, not we, but sitting up here, we, the city. Is that we didn't recognize this down the road and take care of it. That's bad in the city and you know, I can sit there and say to all of us, says, well, you should have told us. Well, I wouldn't be here, so let's don't, but, I mean, let's don't use that case there. But it's the cost out there, I get what they out there, you know, and like I said, we got the interstate two, and like I said, in your packet, I got the runs for the last year and a small percentage of the city. You know, arguments made, well, the city people do have an advantage that they do have a better fire rate, which helps their insurance. However, you gotta realize a lot of that helps that, yeah, it is the equipment and it's the training, I get that on fire side. But the water lines and the hydrants are paid out of the water fund. You know, if you have to replace all the hydrants in the city today, and I think you're right, but I don't know what the current was hydrants, probably about 5,000 hydrants. We got $500,000 of hydrants in town that were paid out of the water fund at one time. So you can't make those comparisons as such. And, you know, and the taxpayers of the city do get some additional benefits because they do pay the higher mill levy. I mean, there is a value to it, there should well be a value to it. And they have to do it as such. You know, will somebody back out? That's always a risk you take. We'll go somewhere else. I don't know where they'd go, but they you know, we can't stop them as such. You know, like I said, and so instead of, you know, doing it all at once, I thought about the two options, 25% or 20%. You know, 25% be 6-7 years and doing 20% a year is about 8 or 9 years and counting inflation and everything else. Of course, I don't believe the city taxpayers will get by cheaper. It's getting money for the future as well, because I think we can sit here all day long, and I don't count some around, you're a fireman. But if I said to you, would the fire department have any problem spending $40,000 upgrading equipment? No. I mean, and I'm not putting you on the spot, but since you are a fireman and you understand that in this session. You know, we are asking volunteers to, and we have what, 40 volunteers that do a super job. As a community, we get by extremely cheap because even a few rural volunteer departments, they pay firemen so much a call. You guys don't get it here. We give them $8,000. Yeah.
Which has also not changed since 1986.
No, it hasn't. For the firemen, they buy meals when they have training and stuff like that. That's a little treat for the guys, and that's great. And if I would put the amount of dollars, and again, this benefits everybody, that the fire department here raises on the side. Whatever group you guys call yourself, raise on the side, and some of us bought raffle tickets, so you bought pancakes this winter and everything else, and the community accepts that, and they do that. You have that. I think another thing that we cannot forget as city council, but also townships, is the value the firemen add to lower the cost of operation. I don't know how many dollars mechanic work's done by volunteers. It's not a small number. Not a small number. And the only reason we had to send that big truck away is we just can't do that, you know. I think some would try if you let them, but we don't have the equipment and don't know how. But they do a super job, and I think we gotta keep that in mind as well. So I think the city and the townships have an obligation to the volunteers to make sure that we provide them with a good level of safety, you know.
And Alan, I looked at the data that you put together, and I'm really hopeful that people do look at that data, because there's hundreds of calls that are being made. 15, 20, 30 volunteer firefighters are going out there. And I think many times people do not understand that a firefighter is just not throwing water on a fire. There's other hazardous conditions that come into play, for those volunteers.
The one comment you get from a volunteer department, and when I have full-time department, you get the same thing. Well, you sent too many trucks today. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would rather hear that than we didn't send enough trucks. Because when the call comes in and there's a range fire, especially in the rural areas. We hope we get there when it's still less than 20 acres, not when it's 2,000 acres. And it's those things and there's no magic. I mean, there is no magic in doing that. You know, the last city I served major in, we had a joint fire EMS department. And if possible, we sent ambulance, but we probably sent a fire truck also. Because there was those few times when having those added 2 or 3 people helped get somebody out a whole lot quicker out of the house on the EMS side to get to the hospital a little quicker so the doctor had their chance. I mean, it's all part of the game and you don't know, and I'll defend that every day of the week, you know, you just don't know. So what do you think we should do?
Well,
Or recommend to them?
I'd like to see your proposal, Alan, on what you think is the most fair for the city of Ellsworth.
Let's first say is do it all at once. That's not gonna happen.
Okay, well, then
I would say option B or C.
okay,
And B being 25% a year for 5-6 years and then settle down to a CPI per year. And there won't be 20, and they may come back with something different. I'm not gonna argue.
okay.
Because 20 would take about 8 years. And again, I think even though none of you in this room were part of that decision not to raise rates.
Right.
But we're still gonna get the private cost, but we gotta get the income up.
So when are the townships gonna find out the numbers?
I'm planning to meet with the townships next week now, whenever I'm gonna settle. As I said at the meeting that night, I was gonna meet with the council tonight and then 7 there meet with townships. And have a
And
discussion.
do we need to meet with the county commissioners or?
That would have to be up to you guys. Because I don't run your townships and that's not what the city needs to do. That's something the townships needs to do. And I started this discussion in February because, you know, all the budgets are due October 1. And if they have to do an R&R hearing, you gotta do it in August. And they gotta give notice by late July. So, it's early September, yeah. But, you know, I don't know what the magic number is. I mean, I think we have to start.
I don't either. I mean, 40% is, like, it's scary. I know it's scary, and I think. I'm actually a little shocked that it's that percentage, it's that high, 60-40 split, or even was back in '86. I don't know what the right number is. And I know we have a couple townships that, you know, we do a lot of calls on 156 and I-70, a lot of accidents, and, you know, and I'd hate to see our townships get punished just because of the traffic throughput that we have in our county, you know, the north side of our county. I don't know what the right number is. I understand their concern and their plight, and I don't,
Why did you?
I mean, I would lean more towards 20%. I don't know that we would necessarily, and again, Ralph and I have talked about, the fire chief and I've talked a little bit about it, but at no point have we talked about what's the right percentage. Go my personal opinion, I don't know, 40 may be a little high, I don't know.
The 46 split?
Yeah,
You know, I pulled it out, but then when you look at the data of the rents
yeah,
over the last year, and I could go back and probably get more data. You know, there's more structures in the city than there is out there, but the number of calls are greater out in the rural areas.
yes,
So you do that balance there and you know, and I understand if there's a structure fire in a rural area. More than likely it's gonna be destroyed. I mean, I get that. Because just it's in there 15 minutes.
right.
Or 10 minutes. I get that. I mean, I understand that. What I don't want is more to spread to 40 acres or 400 acres is all I got. So there's a difference there. The deal with the interstate, you know, maybe that's something that the county is gonna need to visit with legislature and everything else.
Yeah.
And I don't know what other counties are doing because, you know, we're not the only county in Kansas with interstate. And, you know, I mean.
Well, and You know, the other concern that I know that I'm sure the townships have is we have trucks for in town and we have trucks for out of town. And let's take accidents out of the picture because, you know, unfortunately, accidents mostly happen on the highways outside of town. And again, I don't want to punish townships for accidents. So if we just looked at when we go out and put water, white stuff on the red stuff, as we said, you know, we're putting out fires. A majority of our fires are grass fires, right? I think the percentage changes a little bit. It's not as excessive that we're out in the townships as often because we're doing grass fires. But if I lived in a township, one of my concerns would be, how do I know that the money the township is giving is going towards stuff that's gonna come out and put out grass fire and not a ladder truck that needs $40,000 worth of replacements that probably isn't gonna be found unless it's going to another town.
Yeah.
Right? And I know there are other counties that they have accountability, right? They have a way of knowing that, you know, tracking those dollars, right? The township dollars that come in, the majority of that goes to vehicles that are going to go out into the township.
I don't have any argument with that.
Yeah, I know other counties do that, we don't. But I think that would be a concern if I was a township is, you know, I wanna make sure these dollars are coming back to me and not, you know, and so I think this is a discussion, I think it's not just gonna be as simple as 20%.
Oh, it's not. I get it. But we gotta get the discussion going.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't,
And maybe there's a phase this year with future phases in subsequent years.
Right.
I don't know.
and I think it's gonna be a long term. I think 20% is a good ask for now, a 20%
Yeah.
increase. Not necessarily with the goal of getting to 40%,
Correct.
but it hasn't been changed in 40 years. And our budget keeps going up and that's all in the city. And a lot of that budget does go to the trucks that, I mean, we have a number of trucks that will never be used in town. Right? It's
Right.
because they're trucks for putting out grass fires.
Mhm.
And we do spend a lot of money on these.
I get, you
So
know,
I think there's just a discussion. I don't know that we'll get to 40, but
and I'm not sure if that's not, I mean, that,
right, yeah.
you know, I think I told them 37, 30, 40, 60, but when I went back and looked at those years back then. And that's before the city. They didn't have the ladder truck then, did they?
They probably had a ladder truck.
Not this one, this one came later.
Oh, no, this one is the second one since I've been. here.
Okay,
So,
so yeah. You know, and then there's a question, do we have to have a ladder truck? And that's a discussion for
Yes.
another day.
although that's not a discussion. The answer is yes.
Okay,
Trust me, yes.
yeah, and I'm told that why the prison came here. They wanted that was the thing, not never seen in writing, but I'm not gonna doubt it either. And so if you have it, it's a cost to it, you know.
I mean, I get that ladder trucks are expensive, but trust me, the town decides you don't want to be in a town decide without a ladder truck.
I 100% agree with you, because
Trust.
we hadn't had a ladder truck. The office that I work at probably would have been destroyed, so I 100% agree with that.
They would probably would have
And that's
lost.
the cost we have to sell to the taxpayers. Yeah,
And, you know, and that's part of the reason why I know I'm dating myself, but when the newspaper went up, it was just the one building. It's because we had 4 ladder trucks there that day.
Right.
Well, 3 in town. One broke down over here, but we were gonna,
That was the one I'm talking about, that if you've not had ladder trucks, yeah, you'd have lost a lot more than.
Yeah.
Initially, it wasn't the newspaper, it was the.
it was the head up. Sorry, yes.
I mean,
First
But I
time.
mean,
yeah, that's why we're at where we're at.
Right, but you can agree, had no ladder trucks been available, you'd have lost probably a lot.
and that's, again, that's
Remember that night when.
serious here. But the point is it 40-30, is it 40-60, is it 30-70? I think what's obvious is just substantially, I mean, and again, it's no, I'm not blaming the township, because again, if you don't ask me to, if anywhere I go in, Al, do you want to pay more money this year? I go, okay, you know, I mean, it's not their fault. But when you talk about being fair to taxpayers in the city,
Yes.
and they gotta be fair to their taxpayers, and really, I get, I mean, it's been a long time ago, but I was on the township board.
All right, so the process is starting. I have to
I
discuss.
will meet with them and we'll get the discussion.
Okay, professional services agreement with Cobb Valley Engineering. For engineering services for the replacement of the drainage structure under Third Street adjacent to Priest Park. Do you want them to come on?
Yeah, have them come up, they can introduce themselves. I'm not that far more back there tonight.
Oh, I'm Justin Owens with Caldwell Engineering, president of Caldwell Engineering, and I got Matt Rowlett here. He's one of our engineers, project manager. Yes, just a little our involvement so far, just kind of do a little summary of what we looked at and everything. We looked at the box or the structure out there, and it's definitely served its purpose, but it's time for replacement. And what we're proposing on doing will probably be a fix that we don't have to worry about it for another 100 years. So it is a little bit complicated because there is some oddities with it, just with the sanitary sewers pipe that runs through it now. It's we'll avoid that and try to get the structure placed low enough that we can clear that and not have that issue of the pipe being exposed to structure, which is kind of a concern anyways. And I think just a process, what we're gonna go through. First, we're gonna have to survey it to figure out exactly what we got, what we're doing with flow lines and everything in the stream, and then size the structure appropriately. We'll have to do a drainage analysis, which we've done up front a little bit, just some conceptual stuff, just to get us an idea of ballpark of what size we're looking at, what the costs could be. We'll take it a step further just to analyze it and make sure that we got the right size. And usually when we look at a structure like this, we want to analyze and make sure, is it appropriately sized to begin with? And then what happens if we change the size? There's benefit, you can pass more water, but then you can create problems downstream, or if there's an opportunity to be able to upsize it to make sure that we're helping with any flood relief that might be upstream of it. So it's kind of basically the process we'll go through in order to get you a design that's going to get you by for quite a while. So.
And your estimated lump sum is 39.6, and this only gets us through bidding, right?
Yes.
So if we move forward the project, then there'll be what I call construction engineer inspection costs, right?
That's oversight of the project, make sure the contractor does his job correctly.
Yeah.
Once we start the project, how long do you think it will take?
Oh, we were just talking about that, right now, kind of busy season, so we gotta get survey going, but they're pretty busy, so it might be a couple months before we get them done on the survey, but then we're looking at 4 months or so for design. Putting us probably in late fall of getting design done, and then get a bid, hopefully. The being this type of project that could get started in wintertime if they are available. So we're looking probably beginning of the year to get the contractor going earliest.
So we're talking a road that's closed for another year.
I think everybody will realize, I mean, again, it's one of those that probably should have been taken care of
Right.
10 years ago, but it wasn't. And just as full disclosure, as I always do, is I have worked with Call Valley before, and in fact, Justin was on projects, True was just on the project. In my other role,
Yeah.
I'm sure he was.
Yeah.
And I always like to disclose that, so somebody says, well, no, I told you,
I have a question, I just don't know if it's appropriate. I'm not an engineer, but I have gone down there, with Dave and saw what that looked like. And I also saw the backyard corner of a house that almost, you're shaking your head, you know what I'm doing? It's almost looks like it's a part of the drainage.
Yes.
You're shaking your head.
Yeah, that's one thing we would look at would be the drainage with that house there, that it seems like, I mean, based off the preliminary numbers we've run, it seems like it does flood. I don't know if that's been confirmed or not, but just based off the drainage preliminary numbers, it seems like, yeah, it could be a potential concern.
But my thinking is, once the construction starts, the thought process is, we're gonna take care of that too, so there won't be any damage on that property. But that backyard slopes down, in my mind, it slopes down into that gutter.
You're talking the house that's on the corner there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something.
And I guess I'm thinking the expectation may be, that's finally gonna be fixed.
Yeah, we could, it's an opportunity to kind of, you talking how steep it is, that's
Oh, yeah.
down there, yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a great opportunity to try to clean up that channel. That'll be part of the survey to see how much, I don't know that there's a drainage easement or anything there. We haven't researched it that far, so we might have to work with the landowner to see how, if we can get on the property and clean that up for them. Hopefully, be willing to give us a raise to get in there and do the work, so.
Okay, and Madam President, not to interrupt you, you know what I'm referring to?
Yeah.
Dr.
I think we have to go. It's been closed for long enough. We gotta do something.
And this will give us time to, as they move into a little bit, we get some more closer dollar amount, we can then get our additional funding we have to have. Because, the estimate that was in their packet last time, just remember, it was just an estimate. It's not, they very little engineering behind that, so costs could go higher or lower. And, everybody, we had the other one from another firm, their estimated cost. And again, it was the same thing, they were not bid costs, and things do change, and now, what you get down to is maybe one engineer firm to their may have different philosophies on how much stormwater and everything else. And this is part of, I think the goal is to find a project that, the city council in 21, whatever year, will have to worry about it.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the professional service agreement with Carl Valley Engineering for the replacement of the drainage structure under the Third Street adjacent to the Fisker Park.
Second. It's been moved by Councilmember Moon, seconded by Council President Hanson to approve the professional services agreement with Cobb Valley Engineering, Inc. for the replacement of the drainage structure under Third Street adjacent to Priester Park. Any further discussion? Any more questions? All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Thank you, guys.
Don't sit down.
Okay.
All right. Now we've got a resolution to support for a transportation alternatives program application and maintenance commitment.
Last fall, I just went ahead and did a paper for you on the crosswalk there between the two tennis courts, the cities and the schools. At that time, recommendation was to apply for TA funding, track for alternative funding through the hands from KDOT. That window came open, as you know, earlier this year, we sent that paper and they gave us responses back. And now they are ready to move forward with our application. In making the application, we have to promise that 20% we pay. And the estimate right now is 148.9. So the 20% would be $29,900 to the city. At some point in time, I would anticipate we talk to the school district. At this point in time, I think it's probably too early because it may or may not get funded, but talk to them, but that's our maximum out to 29.9. Increase safety, and as I said from the get-go, everybody thought putting the crosswalk there, getting, 2 stripes and go, done. Well, I'll make the argument that we need to have it so it's handicap accessible, so we don't have problems down the road. Don't create a problem that a future city council has to do because, well, I wanted to go from that corner to that corner, and I'm in a wheelchair and I couldn't go. Don't do that, do them right. And so that's the cost there. And the initial cost was a little lower, but there's also an additional beacon in here, $25,000 to do this traffic stuff. Plus also KDOT is requesting, since it basically said, if you want to do this, you got to do 10-foot wide sidewalk, not 5-foot. And crosswalk and then the sidewalk going to it. So that added the extra cost as well. And I think if you're not going to do, if you don't want to do 10, don't even apply because KDOT's pretty well said they wanted 10 and I would say, you say, no, we're only gonna do 5. Your chance to get the grant would be greatly diminished. And, they're gonna be bringing 100 and what's $10,000 or $15,000 to the party, so.
Well, Mr. Dinko, I happen to recall a young man of my stature standing up before this council, raising the issue of the little one anxiously running over to the court and not looking, perhaps being killed. So I move to adopt the resolution 2026-22, supporting a transportation. Am I reading it right?
I screwed up in my recommendation, it's 11. Excuse me, it's 11, not 22. That's my bad.
2026-11.
Yes, that's my bad.
All right. Correction noted.
Yeah.
I
It's
move to
right on the
adopt
resolution itself.
resolution 2026-11, supporting a transportation alternative program application and maintenance commitment to the Kansas Department of Transportation.
I second. Before you vote.
I was gonna say, has the school, have we talked to the school about?
No, I've mentioned it though to the superintendent. They have written a very nice letter of support. They're behind. I mean, I think the city, 2099 and asked everybody. At this point in time to ask them, I really don't want to, because board members will be changing by that time and everything else. It needs to be done.
It does, I just wanna say, when you made the recommendation that we put in a crosswalk, I was all for it, and again, everybody knows I kinda like to be a good steward of our taxpayer dollars, and I understand 120 of it is coming from the state. But when you proposed a simple crosswalk, I did not think it would be $150,000 project. I mean,
But
$150,000 for a crosswalk, right? It's just, I'm not saying I'm not gonna vote it, I gotta say it. I just gotta say,
you also,
$150,000.
you also gotta make sure it meets ADA.
I know, I get all that,
And-
$150,000 for, that's $5,000 a foot. I mean, it's a 30-foot crosswalk, we're paying $5,000 a foot to get this put in. I just have to say it.
It also includes sidewalk.
I know, I get that, I get that.
It's
but
part of
that's-
the crosswalk.
my point is this is how projects sometimes can seem so simple. Yeah, can of spray paint, and let's go do this, right, in a day and $50 and we're done. And now to make it compliant, we're spending $150,000. So I just had to say it, right? I'm not saying let's not do this.
It's a good point, because the
Well-
general public is gonna look at it like
Yeah.
that. I saw some scuttle on Facebook recently about.
$5,000.
But you don't want to.
No, I get it, we don't wanna make,
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
I know, we don't wanna get the city sued, we don't wanna
Okay.
cause problems for people down the road. But-
And we added 25,000 here with the light.
I know.
And if people volunteer with a sign during that events right now, we can probably get away with it.
No, I
But
get that.
that's not gonna happen.
I'm gonna get Mr. Casper on this one,
Yes.
or the chief of police. We're talking about a crosswalk on a very high traffic area. You've got children crossing from one side to the other.
Well, you're also, you have to remember, this isn't just a crosswalk or a sidewalk or sidewalk to a crosswalk on a side street in Ellsworth. We're dealing with a state-owned shared road there with being Douglas that comes in off the highway, so you're dealing with the Kansas Department of Transportation as well as dealing with the city itself and the school. You have multiple entities up there, and when you're applying for a grant, as Mr. Dingle said, everyone's gonna have a little bit that they want added into it, and when it comes to KDOT, if they're saying, hey, if you want our grant, double the size of the crosswalk or a sidewalk, make this bigger, make it. So yes, if the city wanted to go and do this by itself, and it was completely city owned and there was no other involvement from any other entity, that gives the city a lot more say. And they said, we can go in, we could do a couple cans of spray paint, we'll call it good. But with the multiple entities there, that's going to add to the complexity of it. As well as the area where it's at. I mean, if there wasn't a safety concern up there, no one would even be talking about putting a crosswalk across it. And I get what you're saying too. It's just, I think that's where a lot of this is coming in is it's not just a city street. It is a highway, it is inside city limits, and it's connecting to to properties owned by the schools, so.
And
And
I,
that's, I think that's more, not to interrupt Russ, but I like, this is. I mean, again, it's city street, it's city park, but it's also school district. I mean, it's also. So I feel like I would feel better if we knew that maybe the school would come in and say. Like, yeah, we're willing to, I mean, cause you're keeping. Those kids safe too, and it is a lot of money, I agree.
and I am in no way arguing with you not to crosswalk, and that's not the point, right? We do, and I've seen the kid. It's just, my point is when we do these projects, we have to be careful, because when we start, and again, if we did this on our own and we did it right, it would cost us more than $30,000. The state's paying for most of this, and I get all that. It's just that when you start doing these projects, you gotta be real careful, because all of a sudden, you invite the state in, and now it's not 30,000, it's 150,000. I just want to point out, these projects can get a life of their own, and either government entities all get in, and just gotta be careful.
Then you start looking at the cost breakdown of it, you know,
Yeah.
someone would say, well, you want to put a light up there.
Yeah.
Well, the average make cost is 25,000, and people are saying, how's a flashing light 25,000? But when you have to get state approved ones, and you have to get all the right specs, it's kind of like medical devices.
I get it.
An improved medical device might be, if it's not approved for medical use, it might be $5, but as soon as it gets approved for medical use and insurance will cover it, it becomes a $500.
So is it actually gonna be a stoplight, or is it going to be a flashing thing?
Just be a flashing beacon, so you push it when you got there and start flashing. let
Okay,
people know
gotcha.
to be able to cross.
Cause I guess I'm
Lines.
concerned about traffic coming up from. To the south and like not paying, you know, like people coming in, not
It'll
paying
take
attention
time
and.
for people to get used to.
Those two works that we had,
Yeah, we
one of those another town I was in, they
Okay,
work well.
I'm good. I just had to
And I don't disagree.
We're not making it long.
No, I mean, it's
Those are
comments.
questions.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Moon, second by Councilmember Bishop to adopt resolution 2026-11, supporting a transportation alternatives program application and maintenance commitment to Kansas Department of Transportation. Any more discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Should pass. All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, so on to new business, ordinance number 3185, allowing broiler chickens as part of the Ellsworth County Farm Bureau Broiler Chicken Project with the corporate city limits of the city of Ellsworth, Kansas.
Madam Mayor, as you know, the Farm Bureau representative came last meeting about the Broiler Chicken Project. At the Crystal Council, I did write an ordinance. I looked at last year's ordinance that did not pass. But I used parts of it and wrote it in there, no permit fees, allow 7. They'd be allowed from now till they'd be out of the city within 2 weeks after the Ellsworth County Fair. Because they'll show at the fair at 22nd, but they said the window to get them harvested is 29. And I thought just put a 2 week in there, because that way you're not worried about dates. So I understand things do happen on that side there, you know. This was tough for me to write because I never could have a meeting where we could have a discussion about what the council members wanted in an ordinance, and so you're getting Alan Finkel's thoughts, and that's, I'll be very honest with that. And before anybody says I'm anti-agriculture, it's like, you know, as I wrote in my memo, you're probably gonna find a city, major city of Kansas with more ag background than me, with a degree in animal science, former county agent. My daughters showed livestock in 4-H. I still judge livestock shows. You know, so I get the rationale for having livestock, and I'm all cool about that. But I'm also sitting in city administrator to deal with those issues. So I have my recommendations in there for ordinance. You know, it's up to you if you want to adopt or, you know, if you want to change it, we have to bring it back to another meeting, because that's their timetable then.
I do want to mention that I talked to Katie and Levi after last time's meeting, and they agreed to give us the applications for anyone in the city limits. And then it was also on the resident to kind of do their due diligence and make sure they weren't in a covenant or anything that did not help out.
So how many people applied within the city?
Katie, are your applications open yet?
I haven't officially posted them, but I have 2 people within city limits that I've discussed with them. They said they would definitely be interested for sure.
But I guess my understanding was that this was to encourage people to be self-sufficient.
Yeah.
And so then the logic goes, if you cannot have chickens in the city, even if you were to go through this program, at the end of it, you're still not gonna be able to put chickens in the city. So why are we having people doing that if they're not gonna be able to do it?
So what we're doing, I guess, we're trying to educate them on how they can be self-sufficient. This program is something that we would love, I mean, if it works out, we would love to offer it more than one time. I mean, we're trying to open up the possibility of teaching the people to be sufficient for their life and not just a one-time experience. So we have the end goal of offering this program annually is what our end goal is, but it's one of those things, trial and error. So also by learning how to take care of the chickens, the kids are learning other skills just besides getting their food. I mean, they're gonna be learning all sorts of skills and we're gonna provide recipes for the chicken, like they can figure out how to get the chicken also at the store, grocery store down the road. But we're gonna provide them with recipes, so it's an all-around broad picture and not just a 8-week time period. So we're trying to instill skills that will last throughout the life and not just over the 8 or 10-week time period.
Madam Mayor, if I may. During the last meeting that we had, I was very, very supportive of the program based on the time factor. And I have to be ruthlessly honest about, I've given this a lot more thought. Please bear with me. At the last meeting, several months ago, there was a presentation by a group of people or a couple of people that they wanted to have the chicken ordinance here in Ellsworth, and that council did not approve that. So I wrote this down for clarity for myself. Several months ago, as a non-member of the council and group of what I deemed to be invested in the communities, the members eloquently presented with a petition of others a desire to have chickens inside the city limits. The council deliberated and did not support the petition request by the citizens. In my review of research and those actions, I have changed my mind about being supportive of this particular program. It's hard for me to say it that way because I do believe it's a decent program. I'm just thinking in terms of the council passed an ordinance not to have chickens in Ellsworth. And I think if we were to say, okay, let's do this for 60 days, 90 days, it's going to be unfair to those people that put the petition before to have chickens ongoing. That said, I believe if we do this, we're going to set a precedence. So now, the Girl Scouts, they may want to have a 30-day program of chickens. The Boy Scouts, in order to have a merit badge, they might want to have 120 days of chickens. And then another group comes forward, regroups from the group that we denied, they come forward. And so we're going to start saying, yes, these people can, and these people cannot. So I think we're just setting ourselves up for a lot of nuances that may not be fully in front of us at this point. Also, I did a Google Agriculture Kansas, and I can't even pronounce the name, but it was talking about some kind of AVIAN influenza.
Avian influenza.
Bird flu.
And I downloaded it, and guess what? What communities are affected by that? And we are affected by that. Mice like to eat feed or the bird neighbors. I'm thinking in terms of neighbors in the city. I have just changed my mind about supporting having the chickens. Love the program. I just believe the ordinance that we said Ellsworth will not have chickens needs to be respected.
Let's clarify a couple things here. The city council last year did not make an ordinance to disallow chickens. It always was that way, at least in recent years. The ordinance last year was to allow chickens and it failed by a 3-2 vote. I mean, it was fine. And You know, there's cities that have chickens and there's a lot of concern about, you know, if there's anything controversial in the ordinance I wrote, is and what I wrote last year was, you know, the things about having covenants. The city does not control covenants. But as I said last year, and I'll say it again now, I put it in there because what I don't want to have in this neighborhood fighting let's assume that we're neighbors and I get chickens and the county says, ah, you can't have chickens, city said no. Or our code says, our covenants say no. I go, so yeah, the city council said I could. Well, I don't want to be involved in this from a city standpoint, so that's why I stuck that in there. We can't do anything about it. If they do it, you know, I'm not gonna say they can't because it's gonna have to be the covenants that do the neighbors and everything else, but at least we put them on notice that way. That was my thought then, and still it's to this day. You know, and again, there's cities with chickens, there's cities without, and I don't know who's right and who's wrong. Yeah,
Anybody else want to share thoughts?
yeah.
Question for Katie?
The chickens are coming soon, right? We had to get this approved tonight for this to work.
Yep, the chickens are coming regardless. It was just an opportunity to allow the people in the city. So there's people that are signed up outside of town as well.
I live downtown, I'll take all the free chicken I can get.
And Mr. Bishop, you had eloquently stated you didn't think the police chief would want to go around monitoring.
Probably not.
Well, I wouldn't either, but it's his job to enforce whatever ordinances we.
That is animal control.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, if we decide that is allowed, then that's his job. I mean, I'm sure there are other ordinances that we already allow that he would not have to do, but I'm sure he knows them anyway.
That's right.
So, I mean, I don't think that's a non-factor.
And I think the program is a good program, but I also worry about people that don't sign up and then say, oh, well, I missed the deadline, but I'm gonna go ahead and get chicken. Then we run into those issues. I mean, I'm not saying that the people that are signing up would not take care of them, but like, I mean, you stated that there's no account like you guys you're gonna just give me instructions and then they're responsible for making sure that the chickens have the appropriate living conditions and accommodations. But I just worry that people are gonna be like, oh, well, I wanted to do the program, but I forgot, but it's okay, I'll just go ahead and give me some chickens, and then police chief is going out and looking for people that decided they're just gonna throw some chickens, or you've got, or people aren't gonna check their covenants, or they're not gonna, they're gonna say, oh, I did that, and then I didn't, and then we've got an issue with my neighbor's got chickens and they, we're not supposed to.
Not the broiler chickens and, yeah.
And I think the one thing I wrote in the ordinance was the fact that they had to supply to the city how they're gonna keep them. We had no requirements, so we just put on them.
I think there's a lot of,
Would anyone like to make a motion?
make a motion not to.
No,
No.
we cannot do that.
Can't do that.
Well, no,
Nobody
makes
moved,
no
and
sense.
if there's just no action taken.
Well, rather than just let it, I mean,
You wanna vote? We can vote.
yeah,
Somebody's gotta make a motion in a second.
I'll make a motion, Madam Mayor. I move to adopt ordinance number 3185 relating to the keeping of animals, allowing chickens for the Ellsworth County Farm Bureau broiler project with the corporate limits of the city of Ellsworth.
Any seconds? Okay, motion failed due to no second. All right, well, Katie, we appreciate you coming, you and Levi coming, and good luck with the program. I think we all are in agreement that it sounds like a fantastic opportunity, just not a good fit for the city of Ellsworth.
Thank you for letting us know.
Yeah, thanks. Okay. Next up is mayoral appointments. Just a little heads up, I have had correspondence from everyone listed that they would that they would extend their term. There was one person on the tourism and convention committee that did not want to extend her term. So that is vacant, waiting to hear from somebody so that we might make that appointment hopefully next month. Or next meeting, so that we can get that meeting going. And I promised to look into the Public Building Commission because it sounds like we really haven't had anybody on there for a while. So
And probably for a good reason.
Okay.
The Public Building Commission has not been in place. Public building commissions are formed in some cities as a way when the public wants to do a project, the city wants to do a project, or the county. The city wants to do a project like building, a municipal building, a fire station. And public buildings should be played because there's some increasing with bond limitations and taxing that PBCs can work. I'll use Hoyster. We had a PBC there when the hospital before tornado was being built or remodeled. We used to believe building commission, and so the public commission owned the building, they gave it to them, and then they ran through the city, so we actually had, that. And there's a good reason for public building commission. We haven't had a public building project for I don't know how long. And at that point in time, I say keep it in place, because if you ever need it again, you can kick it back up. And it may or may not be the right thing to do at that time, but a lot of it has to do with bonding. There's some cities have them, some cities don't. If you're doing a lot of projects, you might have one. I know a county where I first actually I came from, uses one right now, and that's how they finance the hospital there, along with the jail project. Again, if we had a public project, I'd say go for it, but at this point in time, you're fine not having, they wouldn't do anything right now.
Okay,
And in a lot of cities, like in Boise, for example, the PBC was the city commission, city council. So literally they had to have two separate meetings. You had a city council meeting, you adjourned, and then you had a PBC, and the mayor was the chairman of the PBC. I mean,
so we're just not gonna worry about that.
I think that's probably the right thing to do.
Sounds great. Okay, I do also want to point out, XC Barber on the Ellsworth City Housing Authority. They run their terms just a little bit differently. I told them we weren't gonna change how our terms are, but they just know for their records that their term starts the first of the year and ends at the end of the year. So just, that's a caveat, but
And even with the charter ordinance last summer, then on these appointments, they are still made by the mayor, subject to approval by the council. So if you don't like, you can do one slice motion, you wanna make it, you wanna put everybody's name. Do it that way, but I'd recommend you just, unless you have a real problem with somebody, make a motion to approve mayor's appointment for the boards and committees.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to approve the recommendations on the boards and committees.
I'll second.
it's been moved by Council President Hanson, second by Councilmember Moon to approve the mayoral appointments as presented.
Yes.
Any discussion? Any questions about anything? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Okay, department heads, we got back there. Chief, you wanna go? Got anything for us? We are a small but mighty group tonight.
I did some checking on the alley there, went to the grade school and talked to Troy, take care of that, we had painted.
Okay. Thank you.
So, and then we got the Explorer back, there are a few things I gotta get fixed on it before we put it on the road. But other than that, it's real pretty.
City attorney,
Nothing, Madam Mayor.
city clerk. Interim city administrator.
Yes, I do, Madam Mayor.
Well,
Surprise. We did apply for a grant for TNR with Smokeville Foundation, we did, got denied. They wanted me to put more of I asked for $10,000 and I says to cover spay and neutering and associated animal care with that, you had to have to do that, yeah. And they wanted more breakdown the budget, and I don't know how I could do that because, a dog may not need a shot or a cat may not need it, cat may not need it, because they have them already, but they're still, and all those things, but we can try again this fall and do this such that. Receiving applications for city administrator position, I think there's 7 applicants in so far. We did the advertisement, said application review will be June 1. And so probably first part of June, we need to get a meeting where you can start reviewing applications and moving towards, interviews and everything else.
Can you tell us where you advertise for that? Somebody asked me this weekend.
We advertised locally, in the local paper, of course, and we advertised in all the Kansas municipal items. Kansas League Municipalities has it on their website, Kansas Municipal Utilities. There's a site called City Code, which is Ransom Associates out of Wichita. They have a daily newsletter. We want to add there. Have it advertised with the National Association, International City Manager Association. We did put a LinkedIn last week. LinkedIn is not cheap because it's about $100 a day. We've gotten a few applicants from.
Somebody asked why it wasn't on our Facebook page.
I
So that
I
people could
do
share
not
it.
want to put it on Facebook page. That's, I think, disaster. We put it in the local paper because of that, I think, for the net, I just, personally, I think it's a disaster. And,
I would ask tonight.
it's a good, yeah, we got the same comment. Like, maybe the same first even, but anyhow, you know, we didn't put it there, and again, be confidential, you know, and just glance at applications, of course, it'll be up to you guys, or some. You're not gonna get a 35-year experience person, I mean, that ain't gonna happen. And, the point is, I think there's some there. And we have more, you know, we will, and I may put it on the American Association of Municipal Executives, a new organization that a person I know started, and I'm not sure if I haven't, I haven't put myself, putting it there yet, but we may. But, yeah, we got it to where people would go, you know.
Yeah.
And we're getting a lot of applications from, students that are, receiving their MPAs this year.
It's kind of good timing then, probably.
Yeah, it is. You know, as I said before, we have 5 cities in Kansas of our size, all hiring the same position right now, but Hillsborough was a little ahead of us, and Abilene's, you know, twice the size, but Abilene just is filling theirs too with a guy from Idaho. Had the Water Lake out front here, and all that tells me, it reminds me that long-term, the city needs to get a plan to start. And it's gonna take money and rates and everything else to start replacing water lines in this community. This is, I believe, is the 4th break we've had in the last 12 months from here to 2 blocks. You got old lines. You know, ideally, I'd like to see the city in a position where you could replace $50,000 to $100,000 of water lines a year. You know, that'd be where to start, because you have water lines in here that are even older than your meetings, you know, even older than us, and so, you know, it's just those costs you have to do, but you have to go there. Also, Hanson went to property or budget training last week. I'm going this Wednesday. We'll start working on the budget, property tax. Of course, the legislation got approved by the governor. There's always talk about them calling legislation back. Doubtful, unless, you know, there's 3 state senators that are all committee chairs, and one of them be the guy from Gilbert, that Mr. Representative Miller, who's a good friend of mine. They push an idea now, whether we're having or not, is to remove the 20 mills of taxes that are done statewide for schools and replace it with a sales tax statewide. I don't know if that is any valid, or will that carry through, will it generate enough dollars? Who knows? But, you know, I don't see it happening, right? Just because, you know, Cole, especially, the governor's probably not gonna do it because she offered suggestions and they didn't listen, and, you know. I think the message that the League of Jobs is putting out is, we understand property taxes, we understand the concern of property taxes, but make the cities and the county part of the solution and not the enemy. And I think that's very important, and as Shweta said at the beginning of the meeting, it's taxes that, everybody gives property tax a bad name. But you wouldn't have a police department or a fire department or any department without money. And it's just what it is. I believe in that statement. And lastly, I went deer hunting with my car coming to work last week, so
Congratulations.
yeah. I got deer.
That's a good one.
My car is not bad, it's still drivable, so it's out there now. I got lucky. I was slowing down for a stop sign at 156, about 200 yards away, and a deer decided to come through. And I won the battle, but
Good for you.
don't have that. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Okay, city council members, Councilmember Allen.
We talked last meeting about, we were, the whole rebuilding the houses and
I was gonna put that on agenda and I wasn't, but all the other stuff I put on there.
okay, just as long as you're.
I'm not forgetting that.
Okay,
And to be honest with you, these next two, last week and this week, you're only getting about 20 hours of Alan a week because Alan decided he needs to be a grandpa too.
no, I get that. That's it. School gets busy.
Yeah.
And the only other thing is, you kind of alluded to it, the fire department has its own separate 501(c)(3) now. We call it the Ellsworth Firefighter Support Fund. We recently applied for and got a grant for $16,500 to fix one of our trucks. So 502, the one that was broken over in Russell, we had to tow back. It is actually at the shop now, so as long as they don't get into it and find something serious wrong with it, that should cover the entire bill to fix that truck and put it back on.
Great. That's
On the
awesome.
front line, so. So, all I got.
Councilmember Moon,
I'm good, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Bishop,
No.
Council President Hanson.
Just a couple things, there's a yard at, Blake and. Second Street, I think.
Boyd,
Blake,
like,
Blake and First, or Second, yeah, it's a greenhouse, across from Priester Park, the yard's looking pretty rough.
Okay.
And then, there's also. At the old clinic where there's people that are residing there, and I don't know that it's their problem, but I was walking last night and. There's a handicap accessible sidewalk on the corner there, it's like Kingsley and, it'd be Kingsley and Third, Kingsley and, yeah, I think Third. And you, like, if you had someone that was handicapped in a wheelchair, there's so much like dirt and rock on that ramp. You'd have a hard time getting through it. And I don't know if it's washing, I don't know if it's washed in from the rain or if it's from their yard, but it needs to. Clear it
That's
out.
been a continuing problem, yeah, it
Yes.
gets washed in.
It gets washed
Yeah.
in, but there's a lot, it's pretty thick up there.
we took Oakland Hill Hospital.
No, the clinic, like the clinic that's across from the hospital, old hospital, it used to be a clinic, it's on the corner of Kingsley and
Oh,
Third.
okay.
And right there, right at the
Thank you.
corner, there's a handicap, the sidewalk is handicap
We'll
accessible.
look at it.
But there's a lot of sand and rock that's washed, and I think it's, like Steve said, I think it washes in there. But if you had somebody in a wheelchair, it would be difficult to push it through there, because there's just a lot, so I don't know if if that's an owner problem, or if that's a city problem, so, yeah, other than that, that's it.
I have an address to give you too, the end of the meeting for a yard that's looking kind of sort of junky, has in the past. And I don't have anything either, so let's go into executive, sorry, did you have a good comment?
No, and there will no interaction.
Okay,
But you're welcome to stay.
and we're good with 15 minutes,
Yeah, that's probably a good number.
okay.
That might be a little high, so yeah.
Madam Mayor, I move to go into executive session for preliminary discussion of the acquisition of real property relating to the sewer improvements project pursuant to KSA 75-4319, subsection B, subsection 6, and to include the mayor, city council, city attorney, and interim city administrator for 15 minutes beginning at 6:44 PM and ending at 6:59 PM.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Council President Hanson, second by Councilmember Moon to adjourn into executive session for preliminary discussion of the acquisition of real property relating to the sewer improvements project. To include mayor, city council, city attorney, and interim city administrator for 15 minutes, beginning at 6:44 and ending at 6:59. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
I move the city council adjourned from executive session. There were no decisions were made or no action was taken.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Bishop, seconded by Councilmember Allen to return from executive session where no decisions were made and no action was taken. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else for tonight?
Madam Mayor, I move that I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
Been moved by Council President Hanson, seconded by Councilmember Moon to adjourn tonight's meeting. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Good meeting, good discussion, folks. Great to bring up all different ideas. I think